गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. We are in Amrit Anubhav, chapter 2, verse number 44. How the duality is not possible in the Guru Tattva is explained by examples in the next three OVs. So, last week we saw that salutations to the Guru Maharaj is only possible by merging into the Guru Tattva. Objectively, it is not possible. So, this point is being explained in the next three verses through the examples. Aparna prati ravi udo na kari zevi Aaj vedya nave tevi vandanasi. As the sun cannot rise for his own sake, so he is not able to be present for receiving salutations. The sun has no sense of doership, kartrutva abhiman, when it gives out light and energy. We'll come back to it. That is its very own nature. Neither does he wake up those who offer him oblations with any sense of obligation, nor does it rise to prove its existence. So true. Now don't just take it as an example. Instead of the sun, keep yourself. That you are waking up for no purpose, you are going to sleep for no purpose. You are the eternal one. So sun has no sense of doership. You also have the sun within you, the self, absolute self, which is of the nature of light, which is self-illuminated, just like the self is self-illuminated. It has got no sense of doership. So where is the activity going on? Doership means activity, karma. Where is activity going on? In the self or in the matter? Body is active, breath is active, emotions are active, thoughts are active. Everything that is finite is active. That which is infinite is inactive. That which is permanent is inactive. That which is impermanent, there alone the activity is. What is the difference between the self and the individual? Self identified with activity is called individual. See? So are we falling into that trap? Are we becoming the doer? Are we becoming the performer of actions? Then disassociate. Let actions happen. Don't identify with it. Even while the action is being carried out, you have to maintain that disposition that you are not the actor, You are not the doer. You are not the performer. When it gives out light and energy, that is its very own nature. So the nature of the self. See, yesterday in Bhagavad it came that you cannot stop the phenomena from expressing. The self is there and the phenomena is there. And this phenomena is as if once we have come to realize the self, that it is the unchanging, permanent, always existing, all-knowing principle, the phenomena of the body, the phenomena of the thought, mind, intellect, all this will not stop. Your children will still call you father and mother, daddy, mummy, and you will still respond. Even and you will still respond, or you may not respond. That's up to that moment. But people will still call you by that name. See? So here he is saying that when it gives out light and energy, that is its very own nature. So what is the nature of the self? If you go back to the previous chapter, Shiva Shakti Samavesh, what is the nature of the Paramashiva? What is the nature of the Absolute Self? To express as Shiva and Shakti. So what is the nature of the Self? To express as Aham and Idam. To express as the subject and object. To express as consciousness and matter. And this cannot be stopped. This will eternally go on. So don't fight with the world. Merely come to recognize yourself to be the one. That's it. That is its very own nature. Neither does he wake up those who offer him oblations with any sense of obligation, nor does it rise to prove its existence. So the sun does not come and wake us up. Many people defy it. They are still sleeping. In your house, in this house, everywhere. So he's not come to wake us up. That is his nature. It is there. He's in one place. The matter called the earth is going around. It is revolving. Earth is revolving. So wherever the face of the earth facing the sun comes, that's the place where the sunrise happens. Same way, this mind is also revolving. Where is the mind revolving? Waking, dream, deep sleep. Waking, dream, deep sleep. Waking, dream, deep sleep. This revolution is going on. When is it called the waking? When the mind comes in phase, comes to the sattvic or becomes quietened enough and is yet conscious, then it is called waking. The sun is not waking you up. And the second part he is saying that it does not rise to prove its existence. It doesn't need to be a waker to prove that the self is. It hasn't lost itself when the mind has gone to sleep, because self never goes to sleep and self never wakes up. The sleeping and waking and the dream in between is only a phenomena. Where is the phenomena? If you take it in Shiva Shakti point of view, the phenomena is in the Shakti. Phenomena is in the potentiality. Why is it happening there? Because it is its nature. The nature of the potentiality, the nature of the Shakti is to manifest and unmanifest. And what is the nature of the Shiva, the Purusha? To remain as it is. What is the nature of the sun? To remain as it is. What is the nature of the earth? To revolve. See? So recognize this about ourselves, that it is the mind which is revolving around the self. Self is not revolving, but you have identified with it. I am the waker, I am the dreamer, I am the sleeper, I am the father, I am the mother, I am the daughter, I am the son. I am rich, I am poor, I am hungry, I am not hungry, I am comfortable, I am uncomfortable. Self has got nothing to do with all this. The sun does not rise for its own sake or for the sake of anyone else. He is eternally existing. He neither rises nor sets, both being only superimpositions of the earth's rotation on the sun, around the sun. Exactly the same way, the self does not rise as a waker, and the self does not set as a sleeper. Get out of this idea. And these things have to click only once, not again and again. In the same way, the Guru cannot become the Vedya or the known. So here, as we said in the previous verse, that the student went to salute the Guru, and in that salute, the true salutation to the Guru is merging into the Guru Tattva itself. Similarly here, in the same way, Guru cannot become the known. You cannot know the Guru objectively. You cannot know the self objectively. You cannot know the Lord objectively. Objectively means where there is a difference between the subject and the object. There is a difference between the speaker who is here and the listener who is there. Where there is a distance in between, then subject object are created. I am the speaker, you are the listener. There is a distance. So this habit of experiencing everything in life by this individual objectively is carried on even when it comes to realize or experience the self. It wants to have an experience. It wants to have an interaction. It wants to keep a memory to boast about it afterwards. It is not possible. True salutation is where we lose ourselves in that infinite altar of the Guru Tattva. Because he is the substratum of both the knower and the known. Knower is I, and the known is all that this I is interacting with. And who is Guru? Take it from the previous chapter's point of view. Paramashiva is the substratum of Shiva and Shakti. In other, we say that Paramashiva alone expresses as Shiva Shakti. But without Paramashiva, Shiva Shakti cannot express. Without waters, the ocean and the wave cannot express. Water is the substratum. Paramashiva is the substratum. Another word for Paramashiva is the Guru Tattva, is the absolute self. These are all synonyms. On that Guru Tattva, the knower and the known are expressing, because he is the substratum of both the knower and the known. Therefore, Guru Tattva, the duality of Vedyatva and the Vandakatva, that is, the one who is receiving the salutations and the one who is offering the salutations, cannot exist. And to a small extent, you can experience that when we go to the temples, when we go to our altar in the home, when we put our palms together and we are saluting. We have traveled 14-15 kilometers, trekked to Badrinath or Kedarnath or Yamunotri or Gaumukh. Such a beautiful sight. We have worked hard to get there. And when we go there, we look at the Kedarnath Ji or we look at Badrinath Ji and we put our palms together and we bow down or we lie flat on the ground and we close our eyes, because somewhere we know that what is outside is actually inside. What the outside represents, the substratum, what it stands for, is within. That's why we close. Otherwise, we would have opened our eyes. We would not even want to blink if that was the truth. See? So the one who is receiving the salutations and the one who is offering the salutations, this differentiation cannot exist. So our salutation, our meditation must be such that it must lead to this, where we vanish. Where we vanish. As the subject wanting to experience the object called reality. Just as the waker wanting to merge into the sleep, the waker goes out of existence. He cannot maintain his existence and yet go to sleep. And having gone to sleep, he cannot make a statement that now I have gone to sleep, now I have withdrawn totally from the waking experience. You cannot say that. That I am sleeping, can't say this. Same way, the one who is doing the salutations, he becomes one with his altar to whom he is offering the salutations, and no differentiation is left thereafter. Next example, Ka samorapana apule na lahi ze kahi kele taise vandyatva ghatale haravu niyene. He says, as one cannot face oneself, so also he, the Guru, is unable to receive the salutations from the disciple. And why he cannot receive the salutations from the disciple? Because for in his vision there is no difference between them. It's so beautiful. When eyes want to see themselves, all forms vanish. When the mind wants to think about itself, who am I? The mind vanishes. When the eye contemplates on the I thought is contemplating on I thought. Who is this I? Where is this I? What is this I? What is its location? What is its nature? How does it look? Is it formless? If it is formless but it is still there, then where is it? Oh, they say I am that. Oh, okay. And it keeps thinking. In that, it vanishes. The I itself, I as a thought, vanishes. Then what remains? The self remains then. One cannot see one's own face unless the duality of an illusory face, a reflection, is created in the mirror. In the same way, the Guru cannot be saluted by the disciple because the same Guru Tattva is manifesting as the Vandya and the Vandaka, the one who is saluted and the one who is saluting. The Guru Shishya duality is impossible to exist in the Advaita Tattva, where only one non-dual existence remains. The Guru Maharaj, the Guru Tattva, he cannot accept the salutations of the Guru. He cannot accept. Why? What is the disposition of the Guru Tattva? That it is one without a second, that it is always, that there is nothing else apart from him. And that topic we saw it before in one of the verses. So from the Guru Tattva's Guru Maharaj's point of view, he doesn't accept himself as a Guru. And he doesn't see a disciple as a disciple. Then what is his disposition? His disposition is all that there is that. It's all one. Now we come to the disciple's point of view. What is disciple saying? Oh Guru Maharaj, grace me. Oh, so much, you have helped me so much. You have helped me to understand the scriptures. You have brought clarity to me. I am surrendered to you. Whether it's the outside Guru or the inner Guru. Who is the disciple within? Who is the disciple within? The mind is the disciple. Thinking is going on in the mind. And when we use the word self, mind is having this thought called self, but it has got no idea what self is. it's only imagining. Mind. And because we have identified with the mind, we are also thinking, we think that we have to come to know ourselves. We think that we have to come to know ourselves. We create a journey of seeking where there is no journey. In the mind, the thought I is there. In the mind, the thought self is there. And this I is seeking the self. Is self a thought? what I is representing, is it a thought or is it beyond the thought? Contemplate on these things. The individuality will vanish. See? So the one who is saluted and the one who is saluting, the Guru Shishya duality is impossible to exist in the Advaita Tattva. And therefore, what is the Advaita Tattva? What is the presupposition and what is the standpoint of Vedanta or Advaita? That everything is one. Therefore, in Vedanta also we say everyone is realized. They just don't know it. You say myself, yourself, themselves. Everyone is saying that self only. Everything, everyone is the self alone. Self has not become many, but self appears as many as if, because of identification with the matter as if. Again, phenomena. Shiva, in the previous chapter, Lord Shiva also saw he is immersed in himself as himself. But the phenomena is there, he cannot stop it. The potentiality is there. So the potentiality wants, the Shakti wants his attention. She wants to be, she wants to be seen. She wants to be accepted. She wants to be embraced. She wants to be looked upon. She wants to be interacted with. And as long as Lord Shiva is in meditation, all this is not possible for her. She has got only one thing up her sleeve. What is that? Start multiplying. So she starts creating the creation. Slowly, 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 slowly. And as the creation, as that one potentiality starts expressing as many, slowly, slowly, Lord Shiva, because potentiality is not separate from Shiva, don't forget that. Mind is not separate from the self, don't forget that. So as she multiplies herself, Lord Shiva opens his eyes. It's like when the mind is totally silent, you are in sleep or in meditation. When the mind becomes active, you become awake. Don't you become awake every day? So same way, Lord Shiva is also becoming awake. And when he looks at the beauty of his potentiality, again he goes back into meditation. And the individual goes back to sleep. Because so we have to change this. Instead of going to sleep, we have to go into meditation. But this phenomena cannot stop. So in spite of the phenomena, we have to see that this phenomena is not other. There is no duality in this. There is no difference in this phenomena. Everywhere in this phenomena, I alone am. See, that is the disposition of the Guru Maharaj, that I alone am, there is no Guru and disciple. The disciple is calling him the Guru because of his disposition of objectivity. The disciple is in his mind, so he is seeing the differences. Guru Maharaj is established in the self, therefore he is seeing the oneness. If the disciple wants to salute the Guru, he has to give up his mind. If the waker has to go to sleep, he has to give up the wakerhood. He has to offer it at the altar of the sleep. How does he do it? By contemplating on the sleep. And when the sleep comes, the waker vanishes. Same way, the Shishya vanishes. Then just like when the waker vanishes, neither the waker remains, nor does he know that he is the sleeper. Same thing happens. When the Shishya surrenders or salutes the Guru Maharaj, contemplates on the Guru Tattva, neither the Shishya remains and nor does the Guru by the name Guru remains. Because names are possible only where there is duality. There is no duality there in the Guru Tattva. So who is going to say I am the Guru? Guru for whom? If there is no Shishya, then what's the point of Guru? So in this manner, we must contemplate. Third example, आकाशाचा आरिसा नुठी प्रतिबिंबाचा ठसा हा वंद्य नव्हे तैसा नमस्कारासी. As the reflection of the space in the mirror is not perceptible, similarly it is not possible to salute Guru in duality. As the reflection of the space in the mirror is not perceptible, as if the space is even here. Can you perceive space? You cannot perceive space. Can you experience space? You can experience objects. You cannot experience space. Space is nakaratmak. Absence of objects is we call as space. That emptiness we call as space. It is not possible for the mirror to reflect space because space has no color or form, which are essential prerequisites for being an object of reflection. Space has got no color or form, which are prerequisites for reflection. Exactly the same way, the Guru is not available for offering salutations to as someone other than the Shishya. The Guru, being the very substratum, the very nature of one's own being, can never be the subject of our salutations, can never be the subject of, can never be the object of our knowledge, can never be the object of our experience, can never be the object of our interactions. And yet we are studying all the scriptures about the Guru only. That is the joke. This is the conundrum. The Guru has to teach that which cannot be taught, and the Shishya, the student, has to learn and understand that which cannot be understood. And the drama goes on. Lectures are going on, one after the other. This parampara is going on eternally. It started from Shiva Shakti. He also taught yoga and knowledge and Vedanta to Shakti. And she said, yeah, I understood. Guru is teaching that which cannot be taught, and Shishya is understanding that which cannot be understood. And we are in this situation. Enjoy. Therefore, it is called enjoy the life. Don't become too serious about all this. I have to do sadhana. I have to achieve this. I have to achieve that stage. I have reached. Now I got clarity. Now I am going for 3 hours in meditation. Now I am spending 10 hours in meditation. And coming out frustrated. Coming out with doubts. That is only there because the pursuit is objective in nature. That's why. Because something is, you feel that something needs to be done. Let activity happen. That does not mean that you don't meditate. Let meditation happen. But don't give so much importance as if while listening meditation is not happening, while talking meditation is not happening, while driving meditation is not happening, while the actions are going on in our daily life, is meditation not happening? I'll take one step further. Even while waker, dreamer and sleeper are coming and going, is meditation not happening? Is the self not there? That means you are always in that state of meditation. That is your sahaj bhav. That is your sahaj samadhi. Natural state. But somewhere this idea has come into our head that samadhi, meditation is a special event, is a special merging, is a special, I have to do this or I have to do that. Doing doesn't take you to samadhi. Doing doesn't take you to the self. Undoing takes you to self. In fact, self is beyond doing and undoing. It has to just click once, that's all. The Guru being the very substratum, the very nature of one's own being, can never be the object of our salutations. The substratum of the mind is what? Okay, substratum of thoughts is what? Mind. What is mind?
Thoughts.
No.
Consciousness with thoughts.
Thank you, sir. Someone said thoughts. Even after so many satsangs, still you are stuck.
Consciousness with thoughts only.
Yes, I said that is correct. Consciousness with thoughts. So essentially, the mind is nothing but consciousness with waves appearing in it, and those waves are the thought waves. See? Can the wave ever come to know water by remaining a wave? It has to give up its waveness. So those thoughts which are coming in the consciousness, in the mind, can those thoughts ever come to know the substratum? Not possible. Because they are limited. Consciousness is unlimited. So don't make it, through these three examples, the whole point that the teacher Jnaneshwar Maharaj is trying to make is, don't make the self, don't make the Guru Tattva into an objective pursuit. It is your nature. It is not an altar. It is not an you know something with form. It is not an idea. It is not a concept. It is not an imagination. It is your nature. And therefore, stop seeking it in the objective manner. And where does objective seeking happen? It happens only in the mind. So even right now, as I am speaking these words, I am still there. I am observing that the it's happening so fast. The ideas are coming in the mind, and the thoughts are up, and those ideas are expressing as thoughts, as words. Sorry, not thoughts, words. But this interaction which is going on, this continuous bombardment of words, expression of words which is coming about, this is being observed. And that observer, that witness, I am. But if I take the ownership that I am speaking, then I'll be worried about what words I have to use, what words I don't have to use. If I'm worried about are you understanding, then I have to do my homework, I have to understand this, I have to do that. But where I am coming from, it does not matter. All the studies are done, all the what you call, all the processes that were to be contemplated, to be studied, to be practiced in the earlier days, it has been done and over with. Now I don't need to do anything. Even then also I did not need to do anything. But because we felt that we are limited, because we read books where it was told realization is the goal of life, so we pursued that particular journey, and it was right also, nothing wrong. But we must come to a point where no more, because I am all that there is. Remain the eternal witness of whatever is going on. Basic, where there is objectivity, there is activity. Let activity go on. Don't become the doer of activity. Meaning, don't get identified with activity. If you get identified with activity, I will repeat it many times, if you get identified with activity, you become the doer. And the doer likes the activity or dislikes the activity. Then he collects memories. And those memories then keep propelling further activities. So, activity is going on, let it go on. You remain the observer of it, remain the sakshi of it. And there are times, just like between two words that I am speaking, this mouth is speaking, there is a silence in between. So there are many times during the day when activity is not going on, you are just silent. Be there. Don't feel lost. You will not feel lost if the attention is on, if you are the observer. You will feel lost when you cannot remain without activity. So the TV is going on, the phone is going on, you need a big ruckus around you all the time because you can't remain in silence. So we are essentially that, just like the sun is that, who is unaffected by day and night. In the day, all activity is happening. In the night, no activity is happening. But it is transcendental to both. Exactly the same way. We are that, our essential nature, the Guru Tattva, the self that we are, is that which is transcendental to all activity or absence of activity. Now, where is activity and absence of activity going on? Is it in the self or in the mind? In the mind, in the phenomena. Remain undisturbed. Samatvam yoga uchyate. So this we must be alert towards. We must not be alert towards the world. We must be alert towards the unchanging principle. Remain alert towards it all the time. Only when we become alert towards the idea of sleep, then absorption into sleep is possible. This is one step below, not the Sahaja Bhav, one step below, where we are considering ourselves to be individual. So be alert towards that pristine state, that untouched self, uncorrupted self, which is always, every given moment. Be alert towards it. Then a point will come where I am that. That's why the scriptures say, Tattvamasi, you are that. You the individual, you the limited, you the finite, are that infinite, are that unlimited. See? So in this process of continuous alertness towards that tattva, when the individual waker is going to sleep, it is alert about the sleep, and eventually he says what? I am sleepy, I am sleepy, I want to sleep, I am sleepy. And eventually the more he is identifying with the sleep, the more he is thinking of the sleep, the waker is becoming less and less, and sleep is becoming more and more, and eventually absorption takes place. So right now we are taking ourselves to be the husband, wife, etc., etc., or we are taking ourselves to the body, or we are taking ourselves to be the seeker or the thinker. And as we become alert towards this untouched self, transcendental self, which we are always, as we are thinking about it, a point will come where the impact of the world, impact of individuality will reduce so much that you will have no doubt, or 90%, 99% conviction that I am that. And when that happens, so that I am that comes before. Yes, I am that, and the mind wants to lose itself into the transcendental. The Shishya wants to lose himself into the Guru by saluting the Guru. Waker is saluting to the sleep. The Shishya is saluting to the Guru. Because he has given the name Guru to that transcendental principle. The mind is saluting to the self. And when that salutation happens, nothing remains behind. Neither the Shishya remains behind, neither the Guru remains behind. Neither the mind remains behind, nor the transcendental, as the mind knows through thoughts, remains behind. Transcendental tattva does remain. It is that only thing, but not as a thought anymore, not as an idea anymore, not as a object to be realized anymore. See how beautiful it is. Now, not only the Guru does not remain Guru, but he will not allow the disciple to remain disciple. This is said in the next OV. Parinave tarinavo he vekha se ka ghevo parivaditaya hi thavo uro nedi. Be it so that the Guru is not available for offering or salutations. Not only that, he does not allow the disciple to exist when he salutes the Guru. So now we have understood that Guru is not. That Guru, so if we have understood the previous verses correctly, yes. Guru is the all-pervading principle, and I have to, see, the I is still there. I have to realize that all-pervasive principle. Now this I, this Shishya, this disciple, this waker, this mind also has to dissolve. This idea that I am separate to the Guru, that I am saluting to the Guru, that I am merging into the self, this idea that I am that, which is an understanding at the intellectual level, this idea that I am that, this thought that I am that also must dissolve. The Guru makes sure that it dissolves in that salutation. One cannot accept the fact that the Guru is not available for salutations, but he does not stop there. He does not even allow the disciple, he does not allow even the disciple to exist. In other words, he does not allow even a trace or duality to exist, because in true Guru-Shishya relationship, there is no place for fear born out of limitation and a sense of otherness. Where is sense of otherness? In the mind. Where is limitation? In the mind. Where is the seeking? In the mind. Where is objective pursuit? In the mind. All this is by way of thoughts. And what is mind? Essentially consciousness. Mind, essentially it is pure consciousness with the waves of thoughts. So the material that has gone into making the mind is nothing but the consciousness. See? Now start thinking subjectively. As long as we are in the mind, as long as there is objectivity, as long as there is a sense of difference, as long as there is objective pursuit, what? There is no Guru. No. All my life I have been praying to the Guru, and now I have come to the seat of meditation and I am ready to merge into the Guru, and the Guru has vanished. Guru as a concept has vanished. fear takes over. Many people, when they come to the seat of meditation and their mind becomes quiet, the cacophony of thoughts which they feel comfortable with, that some thought is always going on. Good, I'm normal. But when the thought eruption stops for whatever reason, by grace or by your practices through pranayam, or you're doing japa and the japa leads to silence, now japa is not going on. That time where the mind is absolutely pin drop silence, you are there, self is there, but because of our objective pursuit, because of our idea, concept that we have to seek the truth, still the distance is maintained, and now that distance is dissolved in that silence, and we become nonplussed, and at that time fear takes over. Where has the Bhagwan gone? Oh, where has the mind gone? Am I going crazy? And immediately such a seeker doesn't remain there. He jumps out of that mind and becomes active again. See? But if with this understanding, if we get to that point, then no fear, remain in that silence. Silence is not an object of experience. There's nothing to see in silence. In emptiness, there's nothing to see. Emptiness appears in the mind only because of our obsession with so many thoughts and ideas. Just like the emptiness outside is absence of form, we called it as space. There is nothing called emptiness there. It's absence of form. Similarly, absence of thoughts is called silence. But silence is not an object of contemplation. In that absence is also inert, just like thoughts were inert. If you remain there for some time without fear, you will be available to yourself. Because that silence is pervaded by consciousness. It's conscious silence. It is not inert silence. Deep sleep is inert silence. There also no thoughts are there. This is conscious silence. But for that, fear has to be given up. And fear gets washed away when we are in love with the principle. We are in love with the self. We are in love with the sleep, therefore we have no fear of emptying the mind. That's why we look forward to sleep every night. So have no fear of the empty mind, even while awake, by calling it Alzheimer, dementia, I'm losing my mind, I can't remember anything. These are all created by individuals. Nature is also pushing you that way. Get there consciously. So here Guru Maharaj, the Jnaneshwar Maharaj says that there is no place for fear born out of limitation and a sense of otherness. So the Guru Maharaj, the Guru Tattva, he does not allow even the disciple to exist. So, in other words, the mind contemplating on the self becomes zero. Now there is no mind now. If there is no thought, there is no mind. If you are saying that there is emptiness, there is absence of thought, the mind is still there because you are thinking that there is no thought. So even that idea is taken away if we are patient. And for that, so that we don't go the wrong way, we don't contemplate on emptiness, we don't become afraid of void or emptiness. All this we are studying. This is explained by a very peculiar example. Angauni ekuna zholu, feditansi to bahiralu, kadafite antilu, na feditatsi. He says, as the knots of a dhoti, when one knot is undone, the other is automatically undone. Similarly, when the Guru disappears to be objective, the disciple also disappears to be subjective. As long as Guru was an objective pursuit. So remember, what is mind? Mind is a play between subject and object, duality. So here he has replaced all objectivity with the objectivity of the Guru Maharaj, the Guru principle, the Guru Tattva, the infinite self. He has kept it as a thought, as an idea, an objective pursuit. And for whom is this goal? For the subject, I. And when the object vanishes, remember, subject and object are coexisting. Independently, they cannot exist. The subject and object are concepts of, are thoughts in the mind, and they cannot exist independently. I cannot survive without interaction. If there is nothing for it to interact, I also vanishes. I thought also vanishes. If there is no object. And if there is no I, also all objects vanish. So here he says, just like when we take something like this, and if there is a knot in this, in a string, and we pull, this is a knot, this is the same cloth, and we pull the two ends, the beginning and end of the knot, the subject and object which forms the knot, that dissolves. Where there is duality, the beginning of duality itself is the knot. See, the wave, the water itself is the wave. Water interacting with water, a wave is formed. String interacting with itself, a knot is formed. consciousness interacting with consciousness, as if, this is all as if. Mind comes into being with subject and object, and it goes on. But when this same thinks about the transcendental, slowly, when we use the word, everything comes into integration, everything synchronizes, thought, word and deed synchronize. All that means only one thing, that this knot is becoming a straight. Integrate. Kundalini doesn't mean these are various knots as long as it is in the mind. But as we raise the Kundalini, it's becoming, the pathway is becoming clear. Now there is nothing to obstruct it. When it is straight, there is no knot in it. Exactly the same way. Here, the teacher is saying that as the knots of the dhoti, when one knot is undone, the other is automatically undone. Similarly, when the guru disappears, to be objective, the disciple automatically disappears. Guru doesn't do anything to make him disappear. Because from Guru's point of view, there was never a disciple and never a shishya. Never a guru. It was in the mind of the disciple. When one end of the dhoti is pulled, all the knots which are dependent on each other get loosened. In the same way, the guru and the shishya are mutually dependent entities. Subject and object are mutually dependent, coexisting entities. They are supporting each other. When the guru ceases being a guru, the disciple cannot exist as a disciple. Don't get lost in guru as a person or guru as a something. It is your nature. It is your essential nature. It is your infinite nature. It is the tattva that is only. But we are considering ourselves to be individual. That is the knot. When the individual contemplates on the infinite, the knot gets undone. Because individuality is not there. It cannot exist. It cannot exist. Individuality is an imagination. Individuality as an imagination. This so-called identification of consciousness with matter, it is only imagination. It has never happened. It's not possible only. Listen to the meditation. Consciousness can never get identified with matter. But we are experiencing that, isn't it? So therefore these instructions in the manner that they are given, it is for this confused individual who considers himself to be individual, who considers himself to be limited, who considers himself to be born, who considers himself to be a seeker. To this individual is being told, hey, you are essentially infinite. For the Guru, the oneness is the only experience. For the Guru, oneness is the only experience. In spite of all the phenomena. In spite of all the phenomena. Who is saying? We are saying. From his point of view, he is the phenomena as we know phenomena. It does not exist for the Guru. Tattva. Because now his vision has transformed. his vision has transformed. He has come to abide in he is always abiding in his essential nature, from where only oneness is. Wherever he looks, there will be only oneness. Wherever you look in your body, you are there. Wherever he looks in the entire creation, he sees only himself. We see differences. We see differences. Now another example is given to say that the position of the Guru as an object to whom salutations can be offered cannot be exist. So he's taking away all wrong conclusions in our mind, one by one. Again, the position of the Guru as an object to whom salutations can be offered cannot exist. So Guru as an idea also cannot exist in your mind, object as an object of contemplation. So towards that he says, na बिभपणा सरिसे घेऊनी प्रतिबिंबनासे नेले वंद्यत्वयेणे तैसे वंदिते तसी नसी. When the object of reflection is removed, the reflection also disappears. Similarly, when the Guru receiving salutations disappears, the disciple also disappears. When the mind contemplating on the Guru, on the essence, the vision in our eyes is illuminating all the forms. When this vision makes an attempt to illuminate the eyes, what happens? You have to experiment with all these things. When the vision in the eyes attempt to illuminate the form of the eyes from where they are expressing, what happens? Within a few seconds, the entire world of forms starts disappearing. Can the vision ever illuminate? Can the effect ever illuminate the source? Not possible. Can the vision illuminate the eyes? Not possible. So you have never seen your eyes, but you know the eyes are there. You see them in reflection, that's different matter. But you know there is eye. You have never seen the mind, but you know there is mind. You have never seen it. You are not just like this is a phone. Can you say this is the mind? Only that comes in Harry Potter, where he takes out his thought. These are my thoughts. He puts it into the sieve with his wand. So similarly, when the mind contemplates on the self, which doesn't have a form, the mind also vanishes. The bimba of the sun, bimba means the orb or the reflection of the sun, or the orb of the sun is reflected in several media of reflections. But when the sun disappears, all the reflections also disappear automatically. If there are many buckets of water, there is one sun and is reflecting in all the waters in the buckets. So if there are 10 buckets, you are seeing 10 reflections of the sun. If there are 100 buckets, you are seeing 100 reflections of the sun. If there are a billion buckets, you will see billion reflections of the sun. But once the sun sets, all the reflections also vanish. Did you do anything to remove them? No. The sun went away, as if we are saying the sun went away, but sun doesn't go. But if the sun is covered by the clouds, dark clouds, will there be a reflection of the sun in the buckets? No. Oh my God. How much we are going to search it? This is what is happening when we are going through waking dream and deep sleep. The sun of the self is always there. When it gets clouded with ignorance, sleep. When it gets clouded with activity, dream. When it gets clouded with slow activity, waking. But in that activity, we forget the one who is changeless, the one who is unmoving. See? Because we have considered ourselves to be the waker, dreamer and sleeper. These are only phenomena that are happening. Anyway, the reflected and the reflection are expressions of duality, but in this duality, the reflected is independent of the reflection, and the reflection is always dependent on the reflected. So just like reflection in the bucket and the reflected is the sun. The original sun in the sky is not the sun that you are seeing in the bucket. He is the what is the word they have used? He is the reflected, and in the bucket is the reflection. He is the reflected is one, reflections are many. Man is one, the roles are many. The body is one, parts are many. Mind is one, thoughts are many. Think. Reflected is one, reflections are many. So the reflected and the reflection are expressions of duality. But in this duality, the reflected is independent of the reflection. The sun, the reflected, is independent of the reflection in the buckets of water, which are many in number. And the reflection is always dependent on the reflected. The reflection of the sun in the buckets is always dependent on the sun in the sky. If the sun in the sky is covered, the reflection stops. But if the bucket is not there and the water in the bucket is not there, nothing happens to the sun. Nothing happens to the original sun. Now when we are even talking about it like this, keep contemplating that you are the original sun. You are unaffected by the reflections. The reflection of the sun with respect to the waking world is the waker. The reflection of the original self with respect to the dream world is the dreamer. And so on. The reflection of the original self with respect or come down one step. Man is the original. The original man, with respect to the wife, is the husband. The same man, with respect to the children, is the father. Father, son, brother, they are dependent on the man, but the man is not dependent on those roles. Similarly, the sun is not dependent on the reflections. Similarly, the self that I am is not dependent on the waker, dreamer and sleeper. In the waking state also you are taking so many roles. So many roles you are taking. But the waker is independent to all those roles. The dreamer is also independent to all the roles that he took in the dream. Similarly, this self that I am is independent to all the reflections, as I have explained before. The waker is a reflection. Chidabhas expresses as the waker, as the dreamer, as the sleeper. Just like the man expresses as the father, as the son, as the brother. Where are the son, brother? They cannot exist without the man. Waker, dreamer, sleeper cannot exist without the self. Which one you want to be? You want to be the one which comes and goes, or you want to be the one which is permanent? Choice is yours. In the same way, the Guru-Shishya relationship, the Guru is the reflected and the Shishya is the reflection. The Guru is the reflected, he is the sun in the Guru-Shishya relationship. So whether you take Guru-Shishya relationship or you take the self and the mind, the self being the Guru, the mind being the Shishya, the student, the mind is the reflection, the self is the reflected. The Shishya is the reflection, the Guru is the reflected. The latter being totally dependent on the former. Mind is totally dependent on the absolute self. The disciple is totally dependent on the Guru. The roles of father, son and brother are totally dependent on the man. Waker, dreamer, sleeper are totally dependent on the self, the transcendental self. They cannot exist without it. Therefore, when the Guru does not remain as a Guru, as an idea, where is this idea of the Guru? Is this idea of Guru and Shishya, this idea of self and the mind, the transcendental self and the mind? I am a seeker, I want to realize the self. Where is this idea existing? Is it existing in the self, or is it existing in the mind of the individual? It's in the mind, isn't it? Therefore, when the Guru does not remain as a Guru, Guru is ever the same. He has never called himself the Guru. The idea of Guru, the idea of self, the idea of transcendence, the idea of realization is only in the Shishya, is only in the mind. So when the Guru does not remain as a Guru, the Shishya also disappears. So when this mind is contemplating on the Guru, contemplating on the self, the eyes trying, the vision trying to see the eyes, the vision disappears. The mind trying to seek its source, the mind disappears. The Shishya saluting to the Guru, the Shishya disappears. Why? He found there is nobody there. As a concept, as an objective pursuit. So if Guru is not there, then what is the point of Shishya, of the disciple? Shishya also disappears. At that time he does not go into fear. Then what remains is that Tattva. What remains behind, where the reflection of Guru and the reflection of Shishya, when those, in the reflections there is duality. But what was getting reflected? That's why we say many times, you must have heard me saying that knowledge is transferred not through words, but knowledge is transferred through consciousness on which the words are traveling through the mouth of the Guru, of the teacher, and that consciousness meets the consciousness of the disciple or the student, on which the hearing is possible. So we are understanding each other only because we are conscious. But if there is a dead person in front of me, will I be talking and making any difference? Not possible. Will knowledge take place? Not possible. So only the knowledge, consciousness is knowledge. And therefore, but we are obsessed with thoughts. We are obsessed with understanding. We are obsessed with getting convinced. The more complicated it is, the more, and if we have understood that complication and sorted it out, I have understood. But there was nothing to understand in the first place. It was a journeyless journey. It was journeyless journey. There is nothing to seek, nothing to reach, because you are already that. So here he says, therefore when the Guru does not remain as Guru, the Shishya also disappears. In this relationship, the Guru is the reality and the Shishya is the fictitious entity. Fictitious entity, that reflection of the sun is fictitious. It appears, but it is not. Mind appears under certain circumstances, but it is not. The reflection of the sun appears only if there is a bucket and water. Otherwise, that reflection is not possible. Same way, in this equipment, because there is intellect, there is a reflection of the reality possible. As Chidabhas. It's a phenomena. But Chidabhas is not the reality. And that Chidabhas has taken up the position of being the disciple. Guru is so Shishya is the fictitious entity. When mind itself is fictitious, how can all the concepts within the mind be real? They have to be fictitious. Fictitious means that which exists in its own absence, which appears but is not there. The reflection of the sun appears, you see the sun, you see the light. You put your hand inside the bucket of water to catch the sun, you can't catch anything. This non duality in the Guru Shishya relationship is such that when the disciple wants to salute the teacher, it is like the reflected face wanting to salute the original face, or like a person wanting to jump in the head of his own shadow. The head wanting to jump into its own shadow, or the reflected face wanting to salute the original face. I gave this whole thing, I gave a different example. The eyes wanting to see themselves, wanting to illuminate themselves. So that is how the Shishya is wanting to salute the Guru Maharaj, the Guru Tattva. The only way to realize this oneness is to annihilate one's own personality by surrendering one's relative individuality at the feet of the Guru. You have to be ruthless in this. Everything that you have thought you are, you have to keep offering it at the altar of the Guru, altar of the self. Everything that the mind has thought it is, you have to offer it at the altar of the self. Meaning, even if those roles, even if those ideas, thoughts appear in the mind, you do not deviate from accepting yourself as the self by contemplating on the self. And we are given this example n number of times. If the child has not come from school and it's half an hour over, 1 hour over, the mother is doing all the chores at home, but in the back of the mind, she is thinking where the son could be, where he hope nothing has happened to him. The thought of the son is there, but yet all activities are going on. Like that, we have to come to a point where, in spite of all thoughts coming in the back of the mind, continuously the contemplation on the self is continuous. And that is the only way. If the contemplation on the sleep is not continuous, dissolution of the waker, the absorption of the waker into the sleep will not be possible. It has to be continuous. If at the worldly level, if your attention on your profession was not continuous, you would not be a good teacher or a doctor or a IT specialist or a homemaker, whatever your jobs are. It's continuous application, continuous attention that makes you be that. Same way, when the mind is continuously contemplating in spite of all that is going on the tattva, on the Guru tattva, on the essential self, then alone the absorption of all duality into the oneness which is its source is possible. just by contemplating on it. Brings you to the conclusion. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Sit quietly for a minute or so.